Mornye, a lead professor at the esteemed Star Torch Academy, is finally available in the second half of version 3.0, equipped with explosive animations, a supportive playstyle, and some of the strongest buffs in the game. Her kit, however, does come with some restrictions, but she makes up for them by being the third generalist healer added in Wuthering Waves that has the potential to grow exponentially in value in the future. As a fusion, liberation damage focused unit with sustain and powerful buffs for the Tune Break archetype, she'll synergize best with units like Lynae, who enable tune shifting effects, or Lupa, who greatly buffs fusion. But she still has the potential to support almost every team in the game at a respectable level. With that, welcome to our full-scope, comprehensive guide to Mornye, the newest addition to Wuthering Waves, and I'm here to break down everything when it comes to how she works, what her best equipment will be, and the steps you need to take across her team building and rotations to make the most out of her insane sustained potential. As always, if you're enjoying this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Mornye, with her baseline kit, focuses on the consumption of her Forte circuit in her base form to generate a field that buffs the defensive capabilities and off-tune build-up rate for allies, while also upgrading that field's effectiveness further with her other abilities. So that Forte is where we'll begin. Mornye begins the battle in baseline mode, gaining rest mass energy as she performs attacks. She has two main methods of generating this resource. The first is her normal attacks. Her basic attack is a 4-hit attack chain. Her heavy attack simply consumes stamina to attack the target, and her mid-air attack is a plunge that allows her to advance to the third stage of her attack chain. Her dodge counter, on the other hand, simply advances her to the second. Another method of gaining mass energy is with her resonance skill. The first cast of this ability heals teammates and enters a parry stance, blocking the full damage of the next attack. If attacked, she'll immediately cast Optimal Solution, which grants rest mass energy. Mornye can also normal attack during this state to exit the parry stance and perform the second stage of her basic attack. When this Forte is filled, Mornye gains access to an enhanced heavy, Geopotential Shift that deals fusion damage, consumes all mass energy, and triggers wide field observation mode. Observation mode lasts for 30 seconds and has quite a few effects. The first generates a Syntony field that lasts 25 seconds and deals liberation damage when created. The field continuously restores HP and increases the off-tune build-up rate for resonators by 50%. It also grants interruption resistance to all teammates in the field. This Syntony field, however, can get upgraded. Mornye does this by casting her Liberation. This ability damages targets and gains 0.5% crit rate and 1% crit damage for each 1% of Mornye's ER above 100%, capping at 80% crit rate, 160% crit damage, and 260% ER. This is the only damaging attack in Mornye's kit and scales with her main stat, Defense. This ability can also be used in midair, and when performed while a Syntony field is active, the field is upgraded. This upgraded field refreshes its 25-second duration and increases teammates' defense by 20% and healing multiplier by 40%. The interruption resistance and off-tune build-up rate bonus, however, are not impacted. Mornye's Forte circuit is also replaced with Relative Momentum, which is generated through her enhanced attacks. Her enhanced basic is a 3-hit attack chain, and her dodge counter advances her to the third. Her enhanced resonance skill simply heals allies and summons cannons to damage her enemies. And when relative momentum is filled, Mornye gains access to a second enhanced heavy attack, Inversion, which deals fusion damage and places an observation marker on the target for 30 seconds. When observed targets take tune break damage, they also gain an interference marker, and targets with this mark take up to 40% more damage from teammates if they have a tune interference effect on them, which as of now can only be inflicted by Lynae. This damage is increased by 0.25% for every 1% of Mornye's ER above 100, capping at 260. When any resonator in the team defeats a marked target, Mornye gains visual field for 3 seconds, which will cause her to inflict an observation marker on any damaged enemy, giving her potential in multi-wave content. Mornye also consumes stamina while moving during observation mode, and she can't regenerate it mid-hover. She can also automatically recover from staggers up to 3 times while in the air by inputting a dodge after a hit, and pressing jump will cause Mornye to descend. Most of these mechanics, however, will not really matter outside of exploration. Mornye's intro skill will also cause her to directly enter observation mode, skipping her entire ground rotation. But when Mornye typically starts off her team rotations, you'll only see this benefit from the second rotation onward in most teams. The last component of Mornye's kit is her ability to respond to tune effects. Her Rupture response will deal an instant diffusion damage after a Rupture tune break, while her Shifting response will buff the damage dealt by the entire team by increasing amounts based off the number of other members who can respond to tune shifting on the team. When you factor in all of Mornye's abilities, resources, and interactions with each other, she has an incredibly simple playstyle that involves generating rest mass energy in her base form to enter observation mode and create her Syntony field. From there, she'll upgrade the field using her Liberation and charge up relative momentum to cast her heavy attack Inversion, mark targets, and then outro skill to her next teammate, granting the entire team a 25% all damage amp for 30 seconds. This outro skill stacks with every other outro in the game and is the largest stackable buff. However, Mornye has literally no damage buffs in her kit kit if Lynae is not on the team to be able to trigger her interfered markers. When it comes to Mornye's inherent skills, her first is amazing, granting her 10% ER and making her stat requirements much easier to meet. It also grants her 20 points of concerto when using her intro skill or the third hit of her enhanced basic attack chain, greatly speeding up her rotation. Her second grants proof of boundedness to her team after using either of her resonant skills. This lasts for 60 seconds and has a cooldown of 5 minutes, causing any damage that exceeds 30% of a unit's HP to only deal 30% with a max trigger of 3. If the resonator takes a fatal blow, the effect is removed and prevents them from being down. When this effect is removed, the active teammate is healed for 150% of Mornye's defense. Sounds good in holograms. Mornye is a character who adequately fills the support role on most teams in the game, but clearly lacks in the buffing department compared to generalist picks like Shorekeeper if Mornye doesn't have very specific units like Lynae or Lupa on the team. However, with these tailored teammates, Mornye gains access to massive damage buffs like 40% additional damage from her interference markers with Lynae or Lupa's fusion resistance reduction and damage buffs that allow her to take on the best in slot role in these specialized lineups. When there's clearly a growing number of teams needed to clear newest high difficulty endgame content, her generalist performance might be enough to make her a valuable pick even without those teammates. When it comes to actually building Mornye, starting off with her skill priority, you don't actually need to invest very much at all in this unit. Her Liberation and her Forte are the only abilities that should actually be maxed, since they're the only ones that actually deal damage. Her Liberation through her defense scaling, and her Forte through her Tune Rupture response scaling. Her Resonant skill should only be upgraded if you need additional sustain, and her basic and intro skills should both be kept at 1 to save on mats due to her lack of actual attack. Now, let's talk about Mornye's weapon options, and she only has 2, because they're focused on her supporting ability. Let's start off with her signature, Starfield Calibrator. This weapon provides the lowest attack in the game, a massive amount of ER, a defense bonus, and a boost to Concerto whenever a Liberation is used, alongside a 20% crit damage buff to the entire team when they're healed. This weapon has permanent uptime on Mornye and has great buffs to the team, but is completely unnecessary unless you want to min-max your team's damage severely. This is because Discord, a 4-star option with very similar effects, exists. This weapon retains the poor attack, great ER, and concerto boosting effects of Mornye's signature, but not much else. However, it's very likely you might have multiple copies of Discord you can refine, and at R5, Discord generates double the concerto of Mornye's signature at R1, giving you most of its benefits as you can still easily reach Mornye's 260% ER requirement. This is the recommended pick for most players. Every other weapon is just not worth it. And the best part is, Discord is actually on Mornye's weapon banner. Well played, Kuro Games. Now let's talk about Mornye's Echoes. Halo of Starry Radiance is her set, no doubt about it. The 5-piece effect grants a 25% attack bonus to the entire team as long as their off-tune build-up rate is above 125% when they're healed. Mornye buffs her team up to 150% with her field and provides constant healing, giving her permanent uptime on the set. You could use Rejuvenating Glow if you wanted to, but why? For her Echo main stats, you'll have 2 options available to meet her 260% ER requirement based off if you have her signature. With her signature, you'll aim for 1 crit damage, defense, or healing bonus 4 cost, 1 fusion damage 3 cost, and 1 ER 3 cost with 2 defense 1 costs. Without her signature, you'll just run 2 ER 3 costs instead. Your substats will remain identical on both builds. You want an ER roll on every piece, which is close to non-negotiable, defense, crit damage, and liberation damage. Virtually every other stat, aside from a crit rate roll or 2, is completely useless on the unit. However, Mornye's damage potential isn't that high in the first place, so just focus on reaching 260% ER first before min-maxing from there. The last area of investment when it comes to Mornye involves your wallet or a lot of saved Astrite, her sequence nodes. Her first node greatly improves her performance outside of Tomb Break teams, giving her interruption resistance in observation mode and increasing the duration of her interference marker by 50%, and also grants its full damage bonus of 40% without needing an interference effect on the enemy. She also grants an interference marker whenever she inflicts an observation one. If there's a sequence node to purchase for raw quality of life and buff uptime and team comps, this is the one. But it is, frankly, a bit broken. Her second grants her even more damage buffs, granting up to 32% crit damage scaling based off her ER to all teammates when an enemy has an interfered marker on them. Her Sanctity Field also increases its off-tune build-up rate from 50% back to 70. Her third node causes her enhanced resonance skill to restore 25 more points of concerto and immediately generate her full enhanced forte bar, greatly shortening her rotation even further, if it wasn't short enough already. Her fourth node simply increases her healing on her high syntony field by 30%, which is kinda useless given the rest of her kit, and her fifth node gives her a 40% damage multiplier on her liberation and 160% additional multiplier on her Tune Rupture response. Pretty good for her damage. And her sixth node, the big one, turns her into an actual orbital nuke, making her liberation deal 400% more damage, and when out of combat for 4 seconds, she regenerates 10% of her resonance energy every 0.2 seconds. Have fun. Now that we've covered Mornye's build, let's get into some of her teams in optimal rotation. Given her general outro skill of 25% amp, she's fully capable of supporting most teams in the game at Verina's level, despite her lack of other offensive buffs, but will shine brightest with units who synergize with her kit or attribute like Lynae or Lupa. Mornye's best overall team on release will feature Lynae as the sub DPS and Iuno as the main DPS. You want Lynae on Rupture mode. You'll start off the team's rotation on Mornye, performing 3 hits of her basic attack chain and following up with her enhanced heavy attack to enter observation mode. From there, you'll basic attack 3 times again, enhance resonance skill, and then use her second enhanced heavy attack to mark targets. From there, you'll then use her liberation and then outro skill to Lynae. Lynae will then liberation, resonance skill, and then charge up her heavy attack until full. After this attack hits, she'll jump 3 times to trigger her polychrome leaps, and then visual impact at max stacks before outro skilling to Iuno. Iuno will then enhance resonance skill, jump to enter bow form, then attack 3 times, resonance skill, liberation, and then attack 3 more times, following up with her second resonance skill, and then 3 more attacks before outroing to Mornye. On the second rotation, Mornye will enter the field in observation mode. Simply attack 3 times, skill, use her second enhanced heavy attack, liberation, and then outro again for her second rotation. Feel free to substitute in virtually any DPS unit in the game in Iuno's position to get great results as well. Mornye and Lynae are the new wheelchair composition. Another one of her fantastic teams will feature Lupa as the sub DPS and Galbrena as the main DPS. You'll perform an identical opener on Mornye from the previous team, then outro skill to Lupa, who will immediately use her liberation, foe breaker, and then her air combo to generate her entire forte circuit. From there, she'll perform her follow-up enhanced heavy attack, enhanced skill, and then outro skill to Galbrena. Galbrena will then intro in, build up her forte with basic attacks, then enhance resonance skill to enter demon hypostasis, liberation, and then roll her face on the basic attack button until her forte is gone. Just that easy, folks. She'll then outro back to Mornye. You can also replace Galbrena with Brant or Encore in this team and achieve similar amazing results. Unfortunately, this is where Mornye's noticeable teams end. Outside of these specific synergies with Lynae and Lupa, Mornye is comparable to Verina as a generalist support. This means you can place her wherever you'd run Verina, but she won't give you the same level of results you'd get with a shorekeeper in a similar composition. But it's clear that the potential of this unit is meant to grow as more and more Tomb Break oriented units are released with the rest of version 3.x. Mornye also has close to no synergy at all with Quickswap as a mechanic, as her kit will fizzle out and you won't be able to utilize her buffs well when she's swapped off field, making her use cases even more limited compared to older supports. At the end of the day, Mornye is a unit that has a respectable generalist supporting ability in most teams, but gains exceptional damage bonuses when her core synergies are unlocked. However, Kuro also gives you the ability to remove that restriction completely by simply pulling Mornye's S1, making her an objectively stronger support than an S0 shorekeeper in virtually all of shorekeeper's teams, which makes me question the design of that tune restricted mechanic in the first place. It's fair to say that this unit is balanced, definitely leans into the must-pull territory if you have Lynae or Lupa, and definitely is a must-pull if you're willing to go for her S1, but if you don't have those units, and you don't want to go for her S1, spending the limited pulls on Mornye in this version is like pulling for a limited version of Verina. For some people, that's worth it, but for others, that means you should probably just get her on a rerun. Your mileage may vary. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Peace out.